Hi, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk, and I've just managed to get my hands on the new Blackberry Storm2, which we're going to have a look at. This one comes courtesy of our friends over at Vodafone. At the moment, I believe it is a Vodafone exclusive here in the UK. So we're just going to do a quick unbox. This is the Blackberry Storm2, as I say, or the Blackberry 9520. There's also another Storm2 model, which is the 9550, but say this one is the 9520. The handset itself is immediately on top, as you can see, and it's kind of similar to the original Storm, but we're going to look at that in a bit more detail in just a couple of moments. Also in the box we have the Blackberry user tools on CD and a couple of manuals and a warranty card and everything else in that pack there. We then have effectively a getting started guide, which is the Explore guide as they call it, which is a nice colour printed leaflet which just gives us the basics of the handset itself. So it has home, phone, browser, media controls and camera. Then on the back it tells us about pictures, messages, text or typing text, copy and paste, and keyboard views. So yeah, it's just the very basics of the handset itself. We then have a guide here relating to Vodafone itself, just a leaflet. Then in the lower portion of the box we've got a number of accessories. First of all, we have a headset, which is a pretty typical headset for Blackberry devices. We have a 4-pole 3.5mm jack on one end, we have a length of cable, then we have a clip for clipping onto clothing, and this inline microphone with a push button. There isn't any volume control on there though. And then we actually have the headphones themselves, which are okay. They're not the best, they're not the worst, but they're acceptable. This is after all a wired headset rather than headphones designed for listening to music. If you're going to listen to music on this, pretty much any handset, to be honest with you, I'm sure that you won't want to use the wired headset that comes with it. You're probably going to use some better headphones. We then have a USB to micro USB sync and charge cable, a pretty standard item there. And then we have a charger, which has here in my pack a American 2-pin plug and is a micro USB style charger, wall charger. We then have a polishing cloth supplied, obviously keeping the screen nice and clean. Have a European 2-pin plug with the round pins and a UK 3-pin plug. We have a battery, and the battery is 1400 milliamp hours. It's quite chunky but not ever so large and not ever so heavy. And then last of all, as is pretty standard for Blackberry, almost every Blackberry handset that I can think of does have a pouch, and this one's not different. So there is this, just a slip style pouch. There's no belt loop or anything like that, but there is the magnetic inlay. As many of you probably know, that when you actually place a Blackberry into a pouch, it enters kind of a pouch mode, that the actual handset knows that it's in a pouch. Often it can change the ringer to loud, maximum loudness and everything else. But that's a nice looking pouch. It appears to be, if not genuine leather, then a quite good copy, imitation leather. So let's just look at the handset itself. On the front we have a 3.3 inch display, which is 360 by 480 pixels. It is touchscreen, and the handset is entirely touchscreen. Let's just peel off that protector there so we can see it a bit more closely. As I say, 3.3 inch. It is entirely touchscreen. The buttons underneath are not physical buttons, they are also touch sensitive. So you have the green and red phone keys for answering and hanging up your calls, the Blackberry menu button, and effectively the kind of the back button. Nothing really to see on the bottom itself. Just peel off that little protector there. Does mention that we have a Qualcomm chipset, and there is a tiny little hole there which is actually the microphone. Swinging around to the left hand side we have a push button, which is like the kind of action button or OK button, useful in menus and that sort of thing, and when you're actually going through your email you can use that for selecting. There's also the micro USB sync and charge connector. So we've already looked at the bottom. On the right hand side we have what I believe to be a dedicated camera button and an up and down volume control style rocking button there at the top. Right at the very top we have a 3.5mm headphone socket, which is great because obviously we can use the wired headset that comes with it, or indeed any standard 3.5mm headphones will plug in there, so that's pretty good. On the top of the handset, again let me just peel off the protective plastic so we can see it properly. We have a couple of buttons. We have firstly the power button and a mute button. Those are immediately on top of the handset and just pushed down. That's what I find really useful about Blackberries, is those buttons right on the top. Not a huge Blackberry fan, I have to be honest, but I think these are pretty good on Blackberry, where you can actually just get to these buttons. So if you're in a meeting and the phone rings and it's a bit awkward, you can just push the mute button without taking it out of your pocket or a pouch. I think that's quite a cool idea. On the back we have a 3.2 megapixel autofocus camera, and we do also have a flash, which is very good. It's good to see that Blackberry or RIM in fact are actually putting flash on their cameras with their Blackberry devices now. Something they didn't really do very much in the past. Back cover pops off by simply inserting your fingernail under the cover and lifting it off. It kind of just clicks in and out of place. This little part here is actually the clasp for actually holding the back cover in. A micro SD card can go in here, and that does support up to 32 gig micro SDHC memory cards. And just in this space here is actually where our SIM card goes. Battery obviously pops into the large cavity there, and then the back cover, which is metal and has a couple of rubber bits for actually holding in the micro SD card and the battery, just pops on like so, and again just clips into place. Nice metal back cover, fairly secure and fairly sturdy. The design of the handset itself, pretty nice. It has this sort of metallic-y, gunmetal-y finish around the surround, and a black plastic mostly, and a nice sort of shiny back, which we'll just show off there, which is sort of a brushed metal finish to the back. Looks kind of stylish. I think most people would probably prefer the leather effect back, because obviously it doesn't slide on a desk or something like that. But not too bad a looking handset nonetheless. While it's just starting up, and as most of us know, Blackberries do tend to take a while to start up, let me just run down the rest of the specification then. 112mm from top to bottom, 62mm wide, and just under 14mm thick. Does weigh 155 grams. Does feel quite weighty in hand, actually, have to say. 155 grams is on par with many of the HTC handsets that we're seeing at the moment, and the likes of the Motorola Milestone, for example. Bearing in mind this doesn't have a slide out QWERTY keyboard, it's quite weighty for just a touchscreen device. We do have 256 meg of ROM and 256 meg of RAM, and there is also an additional 1 gig of built-in storage memory that's available to us. I've already mentioned the 3.3 inch touchscreen display, which is 360 by 480 pixels, a pretty standard resolution for Blackberry once again. This particular model is quad band for GSM, so voice calls will work pretty much wherever you take it throughout the world. And likewise it is tri-band for HSDPA 3G, so data coverage is pretty much going to work roaming wherever you take the handset, so that's another good thing. We do have built-in GPS, which in combination with the camera does support geotagging. We do have Bluetooth 2 with EDR support, and wireless LAN 802.11b and G standards are supported. As I say, 3.2 megapixel camera. We'll just have a quick look around the interface. As you can see there, obviously we do have a built-in G sensor, so the display rotates reasonably quickly when we actually turn the handset. So let's just OK that and continue. Interestingly, the display, although on the original Storm, the whole of the display effectively moved and was kind of like a button in itself. This is slightly different. The screen isn't loose, it's secure, unlike the original Storm. When you shook it, the whole of the display kind of jiggled around. This is secure, it doesn't do that. But interesting, when you actually do touch the screen, it does feel like it's moving. I'm not sure if it's physically moving or it's just a really good haptic feedback, but when I'm actually touching the display and pressing the buttons, it's working very well. It's kind of nice. It's almost like physical buttons, so pretty impressed. So we're going to just do the original basic setup. As I say, it does feel like there is a physical click there when you actually press it, and we're just going to click through all of this stuff because it's telling me that I don't have a SIM card because I didn't actually install a SIM card, and we'll just tap through and close all of these menus off to get to the actual home screen. So slightly different layout to the other Blackberries that we've seen recently. Actually on this sort of main screen we do have messages, SMS, contacts, phone. So if we go into the phone, dialer for example, obviously have the numeric keys, and they work very well. And as you can probably hear there is kind of this click from it. So I do think the display does slightly move, but it works really well. It's difficult to decide whether or not it's haptic or if it's like a button. So I guess that's a sign of being a fairly good thing, really. And if we just come back out there, we can go back to the home screen. The home display here with all the apps and programs and various menu items here is scrollable. So we can go into contacts. Obviously I don't have any set up, but we've got a contacts menu. We've got a web browser, which is pretty straightforward. We have games, very important for a lot of people. We do have Brick Breaker. Something that we get asked very, very often is about the is Brick Breaker still on the newest Blackberry? So that's kind of strange but true. We can have a look through the rest of the items here, and we have downloads. We have the setup, so we can go to setup screen, and then we can set up setup wizard. We can set up Wi-Fi, and we can set up Bluetooth. And each step of the way along, we can actually just press the menu button, so we can actually see the full menus. And likewise, when we actually come back to the home screen, we can push the menu button, and that just brings up everything that we see there as a menu item. We've got options, downloads, search, and so on. All pretty straightforward. Kind of standard in their functionality, but slightly different in terms of their layout. Let's just launch the camera. See what the camera app is like. Let's just get that and put that in the way there, and let's just try taking a picture. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Obviously there's a lot of glare there because I'm shooting somewhere which is actually fairly bright, but the picture doesn't look awful. Slight bit of noise there and a bit of grain, but it's not a terrible looking picture. We'll obviously post some sample photos when we actually come to do the review. And let's just go into the calendar. Pretty standard calendar view, which we've seen countless other times on other devices, not only Blackberry, but there's only so much you can really do with a calendar. And we have media controls, and finally we have full applications. So we have Word and Excel document viewer and PowerPoint slideshow. We've got voice dialing, password keeper, task calculator, and anything else that we install would pretty much generally go into this menu here, so we can install other items. So that's a very, very quick tour of the Blackberry Storm 2, this being the 9520 model. We'll have a full review for you over the next couple of weeks. Our BlackBerry expert James is actually going to do the review. He's the recent BlackBerry convert, so he's going to do the full review for us, as I say, which will be on site over the next couple of weeks. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. On Twitter we are Tracy and Matt, so please do follow us on Twitter for updates, and you'll find out when we actually publish a review, and things like that will actually be updated as a Twitter status update. And also you can join our Facebook fan page, which is tracyandmatt.co.uk on Facebook. There is going to be another competition coming up, which is actually going to start on Boxing Day, 26th of December. Definitely worth checking out. It's going to be a really cool prize. I think most people are going to want the prize. So that, as I say, starts on 26th of December. Definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth checking out Twitter. So please come back to tracyandmatt.co.uk to have a look at the review. If you've missed any of the URLs that I've said, just look at the intro page of the video, which has all the URLs that you could possibly need.